How is everyone? It's rainy. That makes us tired sometimes. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. Today, we're going to continue our pricing conversation, okay? But I'm going to share a couple things in the chat box. So the first one is the registration for the webinar on Thursday at 1:30. It is about getting closings right now and the conversations you need to be having to get closings in the next 30 days, okay? So that's going to be a good one. And I'll do both of these again for those of you that kind of just popped on also, because I think if you come on after I share something, you don't see it. All right, so hold on, I'll copy it again. All right, and then this next one is what I'm going to show you today. So you have two links in the chat box. One is the registration. You'll see it says site coachjuliedowney.com webinar registration. That's for the webinar Thursday. And then the other one is what we're going to jump in and talk about today. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen. All of this stuff is in different places in your script book as well. However, what I thought would be good is to show you kind of the pieces that go along with the scripts in the script books in order to actually use them and make presentations and that kind of stuff. Does that sound good? All right, I've lost you guys. I hate when that happens, but okay. So first, we're going to talk today about pricing. Okay, we kind of started that last week. And remember, when you're looking at pricing, sorry, I'm trying to find you guys. You want to look at a lot of different things. Okay, what I'm sharing with you right now is actually my listing presentation. Okay, any of you can use it. It is called the seller's guide. Okay, this is what I go over when I'm sitting in front of the sellers at the property, getting ready to pick the price, right? So they've already decided to hire me as their agent. Now we just need to talk about how are we going to market this thing? What is our strategy for marketing going to be? And how does the price fall into that marketing strategy? Okay. And the very first thing we have to know and have to explain to them is what's the market we're dealing with right today. Okay. All of you that have been selling in the last 90 days understand how important it is to know the exact market you're buying or selling in. Right? Because what's happening right now, there are houses that are sitting for a long time, right? 30, 60, 90 days. I'm going to show you this in just a second. And then there are houses that are flying off the market in a couple days still. Is that correct? Feel free to throw it in your chat box if that's what you're seeing also. Yeah, thank you, Josh. Okay, so you have to understand the current market conditions, okay? 2 pages before this outlines the weekly market update, okay? I promise all of you, if you are not doing this for your clients, at least do it for yourself, okay? Every week, you got to watch what's happening in all these places in every market, all right? Every time you take a buyer, and every time you take a seller, you should set up a search for their specific search. Okay, so here's what I mean. When you take a listing, okay, I've got some, I still have a sphere that goes, right? And I refer that business onto agents to take care of it. But I have a couple clients right now that are out there in the market. And so we've got searches set up already to watch everything happening in their market, even though they're not listing for another 30 days. Okay, so I'm seeing all the time any actives that come on, anything that pens in their market, and anything that closes, and when it closes, what it closed for. Okay, so you should be watching that stuff for any of your pipeline people as well. Okay, but weekly market updates, you tell them right away, this is what you're going to see from me every single week and every Monday about the market. Okay. And let's talk about what it looks like right now. Here's your first introduction into the market update. Okay. We're going to talk about where the market sits right today. Okay. And here's what we're going to look at when we're talking about what your market looks like. We're going to look at your current competition. What are the houses that are on the market you're currently competing against? Because our goal is to be the number one house the buyers choose. Okay. So we've got to know what we're up against. Second thing is we got to know what buyers are picking today. What are they writing offers on? What are the prices of the houses? What are the condition of the houses that they're writing offers on, right? What are the buyers choosing? We're going to watch the showing numbers. Are they increasing, decreasing, etc.? What was the list price chosen? And what did it ultimately sell for, right? How far off was that? We've got to know how much negotiating and how much movement we may have between list price and how many days on the market the homes are taking and what direction that's going. Okay? Check, 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 check. You guys know all of this stuff, right? And think about when you're laying this out for your sellers, okay? So now let's talk about it, okay? Then you can go in, you've got the scripts for what each market is. Transitional, buyers, or sellers market, okay? You will need to explain that to them. I'm not going to explain that to you guys right now. We're just going to jump into what we're looking at, okay? So this page is the only page in the listing presentation that changes, okay? And this is because this is where you're going to put the actual area of the house that you're looking at for the potential listing and their price range you came up with. This was already in here, but we're going to look at what this market looked like right now, okay? This is homes in Boone County between $850,000 and $1,250,000, okay? There are currently 7 homes listed, and there are pending 15. What does that tell you about this market? What does that tell you about this market? You had to put that in layman's terms. It's moving. There are a lot more buyers out there writing offers than we even have houses to sell. Okay? You got that? There are a lot more people out there writing offers than we even have houses to sell. What that means is that we have a negative inventory of houses. We do not have enough for all the buyers that are out there looking, which means you, Mr. Seller, are driving the boat and you are selling in a seller's market. Okay? So, what does that mean? When you're in a seller's market, how many of you have seen these graphs? Throw a little hand up if you've seen these graphs. These are directly out of the Shift book, okay? The pricing chapter. If you're taking listings right now, you need to be reading that chapter once a week forever. For all your life, read that chapter, okay? Here's what a seller's market looks like. In a seller's market, there are a ton of things that are considered in the market, right? A lesser condition will sell. This has been an interesting conversation because 90 days ago with our sellers, we were talking about, ooh, you might have to do some of this stuff and get your house back up into great condition. And the market's shifted already that it's like, yeah, our condition is not even mattering right now in some markets like it would have 60 days ago, right? So when tons of stuff is selling, that means you don't have to worry as much about condition. You don't have to be as great. And you can push your price a little bit more potentially. You might be in the driver's seat. Okay? Now, here is what we are going to do to help you get in the market. Okay? Here is what your realtor, I am going to do to help you determine if you are in the market or out of the market in this blue no man's land that isn't selling. Okay? Now let's first jump over. I'm going to stop share for a second and I'm going to share a different screen. So first, let's jump into the BLC, okay? Let's look at, so what I did, I was looking at houses in Fishers between 450 and 600, okay? I was looking for another property this morning, so this is everything you're going to see now, what I was researching. So here's what we have, 450 to 600. If I just pull up the actives and the pendings, we have 35 actives and another 53 pendings. If, I think I already pulled it up. Let me see where I'm at. I'm going to show you all that stuff. Let's do this. Quick CMA. You can look at your summaries here of what's happening. Okay, so then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to jump in and I'm going to see, okay, of those actives I just talked about, those 35 actives that I had, right, kind of what's happening with them. 55 days on the market, okay? So the ones that are sitting, 55 days on the market. If you look at the prices, which was back on the other one, where are they? Okay, it's easier to see on the last one, but one of the things I check for is how many had price reductions. In this list, there's about 6 or 7 actives that had price reductions. If you look in the pendings, none of them did. Okay, none of them did. So, Mr. Seller, are you hoping to be in the pending list or the active list? Okay, if we're in the active list, we might be picking a strategy that means we might sit on the market longer and potentially have to reduce our price like some of these houses are doing. Okay, that's one option. Or we can try to be in the pending category where we sell really fast and we've got an offer right away and we don't have to reduce. Okay, which strategy would you like to do? And which one would most all of them like to do unless they're not motivated? They want to be in the second category, right? Okay, are you following me? Tell me to stop if I need to slow down at all, okay? All right, so number one, understanding your market, okay? Actives versus pendings. I'm just looking at these summary boxes here now. Okay, your pendings, days on the market was 28. Your actives is already at 55, okay? I'm just looking at the averages here. They were a little bit lesser priced, okay? But compare those things for them. All right, now let's talk about some of the other things that we're gonna look at. Oh, Megan, great question. The shift book is this. I should always show you and read you the thing. This is what the shift book is. How top real estate agents tackle tough times. That's what it is. Okay, there is an entire chapter on pricing. Okay, and all of this stuff came out of the pricing chapter. So if you read it, you'll hear everything I'm saying here and it'll spell it all out so you can learn it. Okay, so let's go back to the page in the book that we were looking at, because here's what we want to talk through this out. Here's how we're going to help you be in your market. Okay, number one, we're going to watch your feedback. What are the buyers saying, right? You're going to know your competition. We're going to see how you're stacking up against the competition currently. And we're going to watch anything new that comes on the market and how we're stacking up to that. Okay. We're going to learn your market value. We're going to evaluate the optimum time on the market. We're going to jump into that now, right? And you're going to know your market condition. That's what we're going to do to establish our price, okay? And where our price is, if our price is in or out of the market. The piece for condition, we're going to stage it if we need to. We're going to do a home improvement evaluation. That's my walkthrough, fancy name for the walkthrough to tell you what you need to do to get your house ready for buyers in the market, right? Dress rehearsal through the buyer's eyes. Sarah Flynn and I just did one of these last week. It makes a huge difference. We literally told the sellers, don't talk to us. We're on a showing right now. We're coming in as buyers, right? We walked up, we stood at the lockbox and looked around the whole door like, okay, what is everybody going to see when they stand here? And we found a couple things that needed to be done. Okay, so it's important. Go through now as if you're taking a buyer. What are they looking at? What are they thinking of? How quickly are your buyers moving through the property? Okay, that gives them a really great idea of how they're going to be seen on the market as a buyer. And that's a totally different list of things they may have to do. Okay, then we're going to watch feedback. We're going to hear feedback from buyers about your condition, and sometimes it is hidden in code. So my job is to help you determine the code that the buyer's agents are writing in and what that means to us and how we need to make movements according to what the feedback gives us. Okay? So this is how you show them, here's everything we can control to get you in the market, right? We are not at the mercy of the market. The market just is what it is, but here's all the things we do to affect our pricing condition and make sure we're in the market, okay? Now, we're going to jump into that in just a second because first we're trying to figure out if we're in or out of the market here. So let me show you the other two things we're going to research. I think it's this screen I want to share with you. I'll try it. If it's not right, we'll know. It is. Okay. So we just looked at our pendings and our actives. Here is the screen that I always want to work that doesn't when we get on these calls. So I literally screenshotted it this morning too. So I pulled it up 7 different times, screenshotted it. Here is what's so important. Okay, if I'm looking at Fishers between 450 and 600. Now, when you're not getting data, it's because your time frame is too squished. Okay, so that's what I've realized. They don't have April yet, which kind of sucks, but you can get April in the other section. Okay, but this just gives you a big picture of what the market is doing. Okay, so if I'm looking at pricing a property between 450 and 600, what this shows me is where the buyer traffic is. Okay, I may have to zoom in on that. Okay, where's the buyer traffic here? 600 to 609, they're averaging about 6 showings per listing. 6 at 540 to 549. Is that surprising at all? The $10,000 increment right before the 550? No, not at all, right? And you can definitely see a fallout. From 550 to 600, there are lots less buyers even looking in that price point than if you are at 549 to 500. Okay, do you see how that helps you? So, Mr. Seller, where do you want to be? Do you want to push it and be where the less buyers are looking, right? And that means we're going to have to be more competitive on our price, on everything to get them to pick us first. Or would we rather, for sometimes it's just $5,000, let's move this down to $5,000 increments. You can do $1,000 increments, right? For just $5,000, sometimes you can go down and get a lot more buyers. 475 to 479.9. Okay, that's where your spot is. Okay. So here's the other thing. Down here, it breaks it out also, which is really good. Here's the number of showings in each price point, the number of listings in each price point, and then the average showing per listing. Okay, so it's great. Do we want to be where there's 8? Or are we okay to be where there's 2 or 1 on either side of that? Right? Okay, so pay attention to this. Here's the other thing it helps you with. Now, super quick, we're going to switch to the buyer. Okay, we've been talking seller, 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 switch to the buyer real quick. When you're representing a buyer in this price point, and now you're going to see those listings that are 475 to 479, now you kind of know what you're up against, right? They're getting an average of 8 showings per listing, so you're probably competing against 7 other people right now, and of course, adding the ones within the 25,000, right? But it kind of gives you an idea of what you might be up against. So there's a little secret there when you're watching these charts, okay? And then you'll watch them move up and down and all that kind of stuff. Okay. So then here's the other piece that I always show you that is super important. Again, I'm looking at Fishers, Indiana. And here's what was interesting. The sales prices are up over last month, but look how far down they are from last year. Okay, now that doesn't mean the value of your house is down. That just means what you could have priced it at and sold it at then is now lower. But we're correcting, right? All that stuff is coming back. 7 days on the market, that's fast. Look, that's half. That's down double what it was last month. How many of you have felt that? You had 14 days, 30 days ago to think about a house and you don't anymore. That's how quickly that changed, right? And if you're watching this, you saw it coming. Look at this. We were talking 97%. Now it's at 99.3%, right? And 1.4 months of supply of inventory, and look how it's going down. And this inventory is up from last year at this time, which is great. So even though it's going down, it's still up from where we were last year. Okay? All important stuff to know when you're talking to your sellers about their market. Okay. So questions on any of that? Okay. So it gives us an idea of where we might want to go, right? So now we've got all this stuff and it's like, ooh, it looks like we should be right here because you've seen their house. That's the biggest thing. Now you know their condition and how it backs up. So Megan, it is available. It's not available in that analytics section. So you got to go in the other section, the broker or what's it called? Sorry, let me jump back in and just look at it. The market trends. Market trends, you can pull everything up for April. It just doesn't lay it out in that pricing thing. Okay, good questions. And is there a way to narrow the boundaries? Yes, on all of those. So on your The MyBor market reviews, that's the hardest one. You can't narrow by price or anything on the big market review. Let me share this again so you know which one I'm talking about. Ooh, and I think I'm sharing a bunch of stuff, so sorry. Okay, yeah, I shared both of them. So this market review, you can't go down to price or anything, but I was able to get down to Hamilton County and Delaware and Fall Creek. So I know it's just the areas that I wanted to look at within Hamilton to pull out fishers. Okay, so you can narrow it down that much. Cool. Okay, let me make sure I've got, all right, awesome. So let's jump now back into the listing presentation. Okay, so now what we're going to talk about is why is it so important to price it correctly, and how will we know if we've priced it correctly, right? How are we going to know if we priced it correctly? And we're going to know because we're going to get a sale, right? We're going to get an offer quickly. Okay, we're going to have more buyers looking, right? We're going to attract cleaner financing. Okay, all you guys have heard me say you cannot underprice a home. It's impossible. And here's why. Because the more value the buyer perceives in your property, the cleaner offer they're willing to give you. They would much rather throw money at you that they want to throw money at versus you telling them they have to pay that and they don't necessarily want to, right? You see it every day with escalation clauses, with everything else, right? So when you price it right, this is what happens. All of this stuff, right? If you're not getting all of this right away, we need to question if we're priced right, okay? The pricing pyramid. This is from NAR years ago. It's watched all the time by the economists, and it doesn't really change, which is interesting also, but it makes perfect sense if you think about the market, okay? At your exact market value, you still may only get 60% of the potential buyers who want to look at that property. Why do you think that is? Why do you think 60% will only come in at market value? Anyone have ideas? I got to show my chat box here. Okay, think about investors, right? Think about investors that are out there. Think about people. Think about how many buyers you have in your pipeline right now that it has to be perfect. It has to be perfect, right? And if you are just at market value and just offering what everybody else is, it's probably not perfect enough to get somebody to jump off the fence, right? So that's all those fence sitters that you aren't encouraging to get out and look at your property. Okay, does that make sense? That's the difference. Now, if you go 10% below or 15% below, now those fence sitters get excited, right? They're like, oh man, that just came up. Yeah, I need to see that property. And now I'm willing to offer 10% above what they even would have maybe listed it at, right? Because I got more people interested because I offered a better marketing strategy. Got it? This is how your strategy affects everything, okay? So another thing, you guys hear me say this, strategy. Pricing is a marketing strategy, right? It is not a complete science. You cannot pick it, and I want you guys to remove that responsibility, right? That is way too much pressure to say you guys pick the price, right? No, we can't do that. We're gonna let the market pick the price, and we're gonna let the market tell us how we did. But where we're saying this market value is falling, now where do we want to be? Or we want to be under the market value or above the market value? Okay. And then this is just to let them know they're going to watch their competition. Every week you're going to show them the new listings that are coming up. You're also going to show them the new ones that came up and how many were swept right away while you might have sat on the market. Okay. Every week they got to watch that. Here is the consequences of overpricing. This is an important one, okay? And read this stuff. This is important things, okay, on these sheets for you. So when you download this, make sure you read it all. But this is the length of time on the market. This is our actual market value. And if we start it higher, it might take us longer to get to the price, and then we may have lost our most ideal time frame in the market. Okay, so that's what this one shows. Now, this is weeks on the market. In this market right now, you may need to change these numbers to days or hours. Okay, so that's where you have to make it address what they're looking at. But we know there's a little buildup of time, right? When you list your property, it takes people a little bit of time to get it, do their research, decide if they want to see it, if it hits their list. If you're a great price, there's no question they're in, right? If they have to look at it, they have to justify the price. If they have to really think, is this right for us, right? You're losing confidence of your buyers right here. There's that build up time, and then this is when everything explodes and you've got to have an offer right here. Okay, you should be getting your first offer right here, and then second, third, fourth, fifth start coming in. That is your ideal time on the market, and it happens after this little build up. And your sellers need to understand that. Okay, and what does that little build up look like? Uh-oh. For our market, it's 7 days. 7 days is when it's sold. Okay? So our first 2 days are kind of that buildup. We should start getting offers in. We should start seeing an offer right away. Within the first 48 hours, we should at least see an offer. Doesn't have to be the best offer, but we should at least be seeing we're getting offers and we are on the top of the lists of the buyers that are looking. They are considering ours to write an offer. Okay, so if you get to that optimal time and you don't have offers, Mr. Seller, that's when we have to make a move. And, let me go back up. I should probably move these. If we have to make a price adjustment, we might be chasing the market down. Okay, because what do we all know happens? If you should have priced it at 310, and you actually priced it at 315. Let's just push it 5,000, right? Let's just push it a little 5,000. Will that hurt us, right? Here's where it could. Because after time on the market, after those first 3 days, if you don't have an offer and lots of interest, you're automatically being devalued by the buyers. Another 3 days go by and you've gotten devalued potentially again. Now, if you're at 315, if we 3 days later decide that we're going to drop and we're just going to drop 310, that's great. We've dropped, but so did the market right below us, and we're still chasing it down. Does that make sense? Because as you're reducing, if the buyers are reducing your value as well, which is what happens with shop worn and time on the market, right? You're potentially following the market down. At some point, you're going to have to make a jump from 310 to maybe 299, 298, 290 to get ahead of the market. Or you will continue to chase it, chase it, chase it. How many of your sellers are continuing to chase the market every single month, right? Your ones that are sitting are probably doing that. And you've got to explain to them, guys, we might have gotten ourselves caught here. And unfortunately, in order for us to get ahead of the market again and get back in the front of the buyers, we now might have to go to here, right? And get more buyers to consider us, get in the activity of all the eyes, get back where the showings are bigger, and we should see it happen. As soon as you reduce, you should see showings increase, right? You should see your feedback immediately change to be exactly what it should be, which is we're considering yours as one of our options. Yours is one of 2 on our list, right? You see it happen. As soon as that feedback starts coming in, you know an offer is right behind. All right, what questions? I will stop share. I know that was a ton and a bunch of different tools. What questions do you guys have about that?
Hey, Julie, I would be
Yes.
curious. I don't know what you have lined up for next week. If we could
Mm-hmm.
possibly role play what you've gone through as far as a seller, like from a seller
Of
standpoint, because
course.
you told me my house would sell for a higher amount of money situation. So
Oh, that's great. And Anna, that's awesome. And we should never tell them.
yeah,
Okay, so that's what this will hopefully avoid also is you told me my house would sell. No, I never did. I said we're going to pick a marketing strategy that we are going to hope gets us showings quickly, offers quickly, the right feedback quickly. And if the market is telling us other than that, we've got to make a switch very quickly. We're going to read the market and let the market tell us. Okay, so that's one thing. This strategy should avoid that, right? Because you never want to tell them, you want them to choose. So, yes, let's role play that. I will have an actual comp. If anyone has one they're pricing next week, send me the address and I'll do it on your actual property. Okay, I won't know condition. You'll have to help me with that. So then we'll walk in like, oh, and now the roof's bad or whatever, right? But yep, send me. And if I get 12 of them, I'm going to pick my favorite. So you'll know next week. Yes, and a good suggestion. That would be helpful for everybody. So let's do it. All
Thanks,
right.
Julie.
You're welcome. I'll see you next week. We will role play this and I'll look for all your listing addresses to come my way.